person. Let's go around the room and do a quick roll call, starting with Mr. Eichstead.
Joe Eichstead, City Engineer.
Paul Voller, Public Works Superintendent.
Madeline Palmquist, District 8 Committee Member.
Jeff Benscover, District 4 Alderman.
Dennis Pollock, 6th Ward Alderman.
All right, thank you, everyone. This meeting is now called to order. First item of business is reviewing the Engineering and Street Department monthly activity report. Paul, you want to kick us off?
Sure, thank you. Sorry. The report for March is attached. Garbage and refuge, like I say, continues to be pretty much on tact as to years past. Our construction projects, we have spent the last month going down and clearing the right-of-way for our construction activities, so removing trees that are either causing damage to the street or sidewalk and or where the utilities are going to be right underneath the tree. So we're going to cause damage by doing the excavation. We assisted Water and Light with a few water main breaks. We had a couple heavy ice storms that caused some tree damage, so we went around a few days and cleaned up those. We also are preparing here for spring and removed the sand barrels from the roadway. There was a accident at the intersection of 2nd Avenue and Riverview Expressway on the west side of the bridge, and we had to rebuild approximately 75 feet of that noise barrier fence right next to the expressway bridge there. That was damaged by that accident. Then just kind of finishing up doing our winter items, inspecting our chains and straps for our construction season. Another project that was identified by the engineering department was going through and the traffic signal black backing plates. You'll notice that there's now a yellow reflective line that's around them on the majority of the highways. That was identified by the engineering for us to do and kind of worked on that for the last month. There's some that are not done just because of, number one, finances, ran out of money. Number two, those signals will be removed with future construction projects, so we felt it didn't pay to add cost to that and then take them down in a few years anyways or whatever. So we also, being that we've kind of had 2 consecutive years of, I won't say lack of winter, but not as frequent as winter as we've had in the past. In years past, we've ordered 18 to 2,000 tons of salt. This year, we only ordered 1,200 tons. That was $1,000 tons that we had to take, and 200 tons, that is what they call a vendor reserve. We had enough room in our shed that we did take delivery of the whole 1,200 ton. So our salt shed is full again for next year. And we'll see what we do moving forward or whatever, with that. So our sign shop, kind of the same thing, getting things ready for spring. We did have a few snow events and ice and slush that they continue to get damaged signs through that. And otherwise, they're calling in Diggers Hotline to complete some of the projects that we didn't get done last fall. The parking ordinance should now be completed, having all those signs in place. They have the diggers called in for the Woodside School Zone that we added on, I believe that was Cook Avenue on the north side of the school. So kind of cleaning up these other projects before new stuff gets started up. Then the shop really is just kind of doing maintenance things. We had getting stuff ready for this year. We have a big trommel screen that is kind of takes a lot of work, has a lot of wear parts that have to be replaced. That's done, back out at the pit, ready to go. And then some damage through snow and ice events that we had. So other than that, just pretty much routine month for us. So
Thank you, Paul. Any questions for Paul on the street report?
1 second.
Go ahead.
I did not add into there, and I apologize for that, but the east and west side compost sites will be opening for the year. The east side will open up April 21st, and that'll be noon to 7, Monday and Wednesday, and then Saturday 8 to 5. And then the west side will be open until 7 on Tuesday, the 22nd of April, and Thursday, the 24th. Otherwise, the west side site is open for the season already, 7:30 to 2:30, so.
All right, thank you. Okay, Joe, we can head over to engineering.
Thank you. For the month of March, the engineering department started to see our increase in Diggers Hotline locates already for the season. In addition, we did complete a traffic study. I didn't print a copy or include it in the packet, but at Washington Street and 13th Street North. If anybody would like to see a copy of that, I can provide it to them. Essentially, ran through a typical study there, evaluation to see if that uncontrolled intersection warranted yield signs or stop signs. And it was based on a request from a resident. And basically, it's real low traffic, under 200 vehicles per day. There are some accidents, although you know, the end result is the data would put it, keep it at an uncontrolled intersection. So at this time, we're not recommending, you know, installing an increased level of traffic control. But we also looked at 14th and Washington. In the review of 13th, it was apparent that we needed to do some investigating adjacent to this one, just to see if there's any indication there as to what, you know, how that one was operating. Same conclusion there, as to remain as an uncontrolled. But again, if anybody wants to see a copy of that, I'd be happy to provide that. For our signal grants, one of them we did from 2023, we got a reimbursement request into the DOT. Still waiting on the final punch list items and partial payment for the latest one on the Expressway and High Street, Chase Street intersections. For our projects for 2025 construction, you know, all the designs are essentially complete at this point, with permits coming back in from the DNR for those utility extensions. We also got our concrete and asphalt contracts out, which are bid items later on the agenda. And sidewalk cutting for the year has also started. As far as their initial survey work goes, they've started that activity. So the Zoo Otter exhibit, that's also out for bid now. And continuing to look towards projects for 2026, and completed the Apricot Street survey. That's complete. We've also had the 2nd Street Spring to Pleasant View Drive. That survey is complete, so we're starting to look at design activities for those future projects. Regarding the 8th Street and Wood Avenue pedestrian enhancement project, that's a highway safety improvement grant. So that was bid out through the DOT. Bid pricing came in higher than expected, and just today I've got the new state agreement back from them, and they've adjusted the city's contribution down to 0 construction dollars. So originally the contract required the city to pick up, I believe it was 10%, I think, and then the balance of, and the state's level was capped. But considering the overrun, the state decided to remove those construction dollars from the city's requirement and continue on with that project, even considering the higher bid pricing. So that'll continue to move forward. I don't have a schedule on that yet, but sometime this construction season, that project will occur. Regarding the A Street project from Lakewood Lane to Whitrock Avenue, that's also a DOT project proposed for construction in 2028. The city hosted a local officials meeting here at City Hall on March 25th, and they also have a business meeting and public involvement meeting scheduled for April 22nd here at City Hall. The business meeting is scheduled from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m., and the Public involvement meeting is at 5 p.m. We also bid out the 1 Mile Creek dam repair project. That's also on the agenda later on this evening, and so we'll cover that a little bit more detail. Regarding the 32nd Street Railroad crossing near Kingston Road, this is not the Kingston Road crossing. This is the one on 32nd Street. We did have a public hearing that was held on March 25th, and that went fine. The railroad was present, the county was present, as well as the administrative law judge at the state level. And we went through any comments and concerns, and I fully expect that the final order from the Office of Commissioner of Railroads will, the city's proposal to put down pavement marking and signage to adapt our current infrastructure to meet the crossing requirements will move forward. And then I've had a couple of meetings with the railroad regarding the Kingston Road crossing, and those conversations have gone well with some preliminary negotiations. I'm kind of waiting just to hear back from them with a draft agreement, and so we can, see what those terms are in writing, and subsequent to that, we can then schedule a public hearing after seeing a draft of that agreement put together. And that concludes our monthly report. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Any questions for Joe on engineering? All right, we'll move on. Item number 3, review and consider modifying the permit parking fee. Go ahead, Joe.
So I put together some information on this for the committee's consideration. So the little bit of history on the permit parking fee, I did include that in the packet. Back in 2001 to 2003, the city had a permit parking fee of around $200, and then that varied since that time between $100, $125, $144, and then the current fee of $156. With the addition of a $4 decal. But coupled with that is the history of usage of the public lots on the west side of town here, and then as well as on the east side of town. On the west side of town, in the last 5-6 years, just a single person has leased it, leased the stall, and then those numbers may not include the W4 lot, which is along First Avenue. I think there's actually a couple stalls permitted in that parking lot area there along the street. But then on the east side lots, the last 2 years, that parking lot has been full. And even the few years prior to that, 13 of 16 parking stalls have been utilized. So certainly a difference between east side and west side parking demands, but with considering the permit parking fees, I think there's certainly some legitimacy to reducing the fee if desired. I think generally the idea is that the permit parking fee would cover the cost of parking lot replacement at some future date. I did put in there that, based on current parking prices that we're looking at for the Dixon lot, which is also known as the W2 lot, which is at the corner of West Grand and 4th Avenue, just across the street here at City Hall, that it's about $1,500 to $2,000 per parking stall to, rebuild that lot. And then also with the current permit parking fees kind of spread out, per weekday, it's about 61, 62 cents a day, based on the parking fee. So with that, I guess, that's some background information. I I question a little bit, well, I should say, after receiving a call late last week from a business owner on the west side downtown that is now looking at getting a parking permit. They recently had some tickets that they had received from the police department in enforcing the parking situation there, that they were then reaching out to see if, if there was any permitted parking stalls available, which there are. And, makes me wonder how much is of the situation that's developed down there. Is it the distance from where they hope to be, from parking to where they either work or want to solicit or patronize the businesses? Or is it the price of the permit parking fee, if that's a real detriment? And considering the more recent conversations with the permit parking situation, it would almost seem to stem from the citations that has, which would be an indication that they're parking in areas where it wouldn't be appropriate, either over the 2-hour mark or maybe perhaps for the whole day. But certainly on the west side, there's ample parking. It's just a matter of, is it close enough to where they feel it's appropriate. But certainly, I think it's on the table of, as far as reducing the fee. I think it probably, east side versus west side, you want to consider that too, keeping them the same.
Thank you, Joe. Any questions or comments? Committee?
I'll start. At our current fee, I understand what that pays for, but our fees only offset the cost of providing parking when we actually sell all the parking permits, and we're not doing that. So it's a little bit of a conundrum to have there. But if we think about how much we pay for a permit and then what the alternative would be. So we've got $156 a year plus the $4 for a decal. And the alternative would be somebody parks in a spot where they're not supposed to park 6 times, $25 a ticket, pays for your permit. Decreasing the cost, I think, would definitely encourage people to get a permit before they have a parking ticket. But at the same time, if we're not enforcing our parking, then why would people get a permit? It's good advice to get a permit and not recommended if we're not enforcing people parking in the incorrect spaces. I'm totally comfortable modifying the permit fees. I just don't know how we further encourage use of the permit parking over parking in 2-hour spaces or anywhere else.
And I think enforcement has been the reason why this has come up, at least in my district and some of the businesses that reached out to me, is the number of tickets that are being written. So I think lowering the fee is something we should definitely consider. I appreciate the history that you provided, Joe. It looks like our lowest permit parking fee was 2004 to 2005 at $100 plus a $4 decal. I also appreciate you including the East Lot information because, like you said, 2024 and 2025, that lot was maxed out at permits bought at 16. So that's good to know as well. But the west side, it's just been one person purchasing a permit since basically 2020. And yeah, I think some of that is maybe a lack of enforcement, but it doesn't seem to be the issue right now. I think the other part of that is lack of awareness of the permits. But with that being said, what is it? What is the ticket? Is it 15 or is it 25 in a 2-hour parking over a 2-hour max?
That's a good question. I don't have the exact number. Before the meeting, I did recall maybe around the $30 mark, so the $25 probably
Okay.
more accurate.
So like Madeline said, basically 6 tickets, and you're at the price, the cost of a permit. And I've heard of some folks getting at least that many. So to me, I like to go to the Loth side of things, especially considering, you know, the west lots are rarely used or utilized. So I'm looking at that, you know, $100 plus $4 per decal for, permit parking fee. And I think that would be a good place to start. You know, that's kicking out basically $56, lowering the cost $56. I think that's should be enough encouragement for folks to maybe, you know, seriously consider the permit parking to avoid the tickets that have been being issued lately. And like you said, Joe, you know, maybe it's a block, maybe it's a little bit more for some of these businesses that, you know, have to walk, but, you know, at the end of the day, we really don't want the employees clogging up the 2-hour parking, you know, for the patrons, you know, and I think making sure that that doesn't happen is pretty important. So I would be in favor of kicking that fee down to $100. Jake?
Thank you. No thoughts on the fee. I just had a question. What do the signs say down by the permit parking? Does it just say permit parking only? Or does it have, and does it have the fine? Does it have the amount? Because what I see when I go to other cities that have permit parking is there is a sign that can be pretty intimidating with a hefty fine if you park there, which is a big deterrent to not park in the permitted parking. You know, and it's not $25, $30. I mean, it's like 100 something. So, you know, you keep driving until you find some public parking. But what is our signage down there?
It's got the public parking P symbol, and then permit parking with the times that are allowed for permit parking. But yeah, I don't think there's any persuasion, you know, if somebody were to park there and what sort of citation they would receive if they didn't have a permit.
Thank you. Yeah, that was my thought too, specifically for the one over by the courthouse, because I think that one, if you're headed down to the courthouse, whatever you got business you got going on down there, if you need to park and there is a lack of parking down there, you're likely to park in one of those permitted spots regardless of the fine, just to be on time. So just a thought.
Anyone else?
I agree with you, the $100, it would be, I guess, finding middle ground. I feel that part of the problem is that the people aren't made aware of the parking permit. By lowering it and maybe putting some signs out, I think we would get people to give us the $100 and hopefully eliminate any problems. Do you want to speak, Kevin, or?
I'll recognize you.
Kevin Fangman, 710 3rd Street South. Alderman Pollock and I were in the Police and Fire Commission meeting 2 days ago. And we were talking about tickets. And the gist of what I'm getting is there's almost $300,000 worth of tickets that are unpaid. Now, that's not all parking tickets. That's also traffic violations and violations, property violations. My point is that it would appear that the city's getting a reputation that we don't enforce those tickets. The reason that was explained to us in that meeting, and Alderman Pollock can correct me if I say anything that he doesn't recollect the same, is that the city has to pay, if we issue an arrest warrant for that, the city has to pay the sheriff's department to jail those people, and it costs the city money, and therefore we don't do it. They discussed some ideas that I'm hoping they're going to bring to council on how to correct that situation, but until that situation is resolved, I don't think it's going to matter what you charge for the parking. If people know that if they get a parking ticket, they can just throw it away and no one's ever going to come after them for it, they're not going to pay the fee anyway. And I'll say to Mr. Katna, who is always looking for ways to save the city money, they're saying that there's $300,000 worth of uncollected fines that owed the city. Thank you.
Going back to the, the parking fees, or what we would charge for a permit, we clearly do not have a problem on the east side lots with the 16 stalls and those being full.
Correct. I think not with the permit fee amount. I think the only situation that we've had there recently is just some vehicles parking in permitted stalls that didn't have permits. And, yeah.
Would we decrease the permit fee across the board? Or are we considering encouraging more use of the west side lots by making the west side lots look more appealing at a lower permit fee?
I like to keep it clean across the board myself, but I understand, the demand for the east lots is obviously higher. But I think, I'd like to see it, come down on all permit parking myself. So as far as signage is concerned, all the permitted parkings have a sign at each stall, correct?
No, they don't have a sign at each stall. Typically they have signs at the ends of the set of stalls.
Okay, so with arrows from here to,
Yep.
okay. Okay. So it would be a limited number of signs if we wanted to do a little bit more information as far as, maybe we've talked about QR codes before and the ability to not only, see what the hours of the permitted parking are, but potentially a link that would allow you to purchase or send you to the city site where you could purchase the permitted parking, I think would be worthy of discussing. But I mean, how many signs would we be talking about having to rework if we did that? Any idea?
Well, the signs in the Dixon parking lot, right next door here is, that parking lot's going to be potentially rebuilt this summer. And that's kind of on a further agenda item as well. But, so those signs would likely get replaced with the rebuild. And then outside of that, we'd have the W4 area along First Avenue and then the east side lot.
So maybe it would be a good test to try it out on Dixon and to see if it makes a difference,
Sure.
to include a little bit more information on the signs themselves. To Mr. Cattanaw's point, is there a different fine for somebody that parks in a permitted spot compared to a 2-hour spot? Or is it the same?
That's a good question. I'm not 100% sure on that answer, but I think it's probably the same.
It's the same?
Yep.
So maybe we consider changing that as well, to make it a little more robust to try to keep people out of those
Sure.
permitted stalls. Because if somebody pays the money for that stall, I sure would, want to have access to that stall. And, if somebody's there illegally, then they should pay the price for doing so.
Yeah.
So $25, $30 isn't necessarily anything to balk at, but like Mr. Catnaw said, if you start getting up into the $100 range, it surely is. So that'd be something I'd be interested in as well. So, any further discussion on this topic?
I like the idea of having a QR code on this sign. We talked about it previously on other signs, and I understand why we didn't go with it, because it's unrealistic to have somebody driving try to scan a code to get to an ordinance. But in this instance, they'd be in a parking lot. They could be stopped in front of the sign. If we had an easy way to facilitate them purchasing a permit or contacting us, learning more about it, I think that would be beneficial.
Agreed. So the change in signage, is that something we can lump into this, or should we bring this back to a future Public Works agenda, Joe?
I think you could, I mean, if you have enough information for the motion, I think you could probably lump it together if you wanted.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, hearing no discussion, what are the committee's wishes?
Motion to modify the permit parking fee to $100 plus $4 per decal for both the east side and the west side lots. And modify the signage in the Dixon Street lot, which will be rebuilt this summer. Is that the correct lot, Joe?
Yeah, the Dixon lot.
Thank
Yep.
you.
That should cover what we need, I think. I'll second. Any further discussion? All right, we'll go to vote. All in favor respond with aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Moving along to item 4, review and consider providing permanent parking in the Market Square lot, which is a city-owned lot, at 3rd Avenue South and Johnson Street. Go ahead, Joe.
So this lot previously had permanent parking. It's currently all 2-hour parking. I guess if distance is a factor with some of the situation that's occurring on the west side, on-street parking, this lot is actually closer. It's 1 block away versus almost 2 blocks away that the Dixon lot is, you know, from both the River Block building and the Mead Witter building. And so this was an idea that at least put it before the committee, and, you know, as far as adding permanent parking stalls back in there, if that was something that you also wanted to consider, provide additional stalls that were closer.
Joe, how many stalls are in that lot? Do you have an idea?
I think there are 57, just shy of 60, I think.
And what would you recommend for permit versus 2-hour parking? Do you have a number in mind?
I mean, if it was between 5 and 10 stalls on the very north side, north and east, in the very east aisle on the north side, closest to Johnson Street, I think that would be sufficient.
Okay. Yeah, and I think it makes sense, like you said, proximity-wise, somebody might desire this lot more than others. So I would be in favor with permitting 10 stalls in that lot. Sure, we'll take a motion.
I would make that motion to open up 10 stalls for parking permits at the Market Square city-owned lot at 3rd Avenue South and Johnson Street.
And I'll second. Any further discussion? 10 stalls at the Market Square lot at 3rd Avenue South and Johnson. All right, hearing no discussion, we'll go to vote. All in favor respond with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Item 5, review and consider a resolution to initiate discontinuance of Harrison Street between 7th Avenue to the east dead end. Go ahead, Joe.
Thank you. So Harrison Street is part of the capital improvement projects for 2025. And as part of our design work, this dead-end piece of Harrison is kind of flagged as, hey, maybe before we decide to reinvest dollars in this stub of asphalt, is there much need for it at this point? Or even into the future, can we foresee any future use or need for it? And at this time, we don't see that there's any future need or use for it. And so in an attempt to, save those dollars, we have a few options. We could either consider the discontinuance, which would essentially vacate the right-of-way as being a public asset. It would then revert half and half back to the adjacent property owner, so the one to the north and one to the south. And so they would just assume ownership of that property moving forward. Another option would be that the right-of-way would remain in place and that, we could rebuild it. It's about $30,000 in asphalt and restoration costs to put new asphalt in there. And then there is a third option, which isn't listed in the packet, but if a discontinuance wasn't pursued, we could still rebuild the project, kind of as shown in the image there, where we just kind of round the corner between Harrison and 7th Avenue, and then simply just match into the existing pavement that's there. And so I think one of the potential concerns is the property at the northeast corner. They are currently using the right-of-way for parking, so it's kind of a illegal use of it's not a traditional parking, it's kind of an extension of their lot. But considering the options with the discontinuance, they would be able to, then continue utilizing that part of the right-of-way. It would then be their property at that point. And, from a future city need, there really isn't a need to invest the dollars in improving that part of the street.
Thank you, Joe. So it looks like on here, if discontinuance was the route, that the asphalt that's currently there would be removed. Is that right?
That's correct, yep. So we'd remove it and just restore it with grass, and, the adjacent property owner, they could, if they wanted, they could put a driveway entrance in on that corner. The property owner to the south, which is the railroad, I mean, they've got ample access. I don't think that they would probably do anything with their half of it.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at the picture or the photo provided, and like you said, it looks like the property owner is using the right of way as a parking area, but at the same time, if there was anything that we could do to ensure that, that property owner didn't have to completely rebuild that drive, I think that would be a good thing as well, if it saved the city work, if that's at all possible.
Yeah, I think so. If they're interested in continuing to use that, even after discontinuance, use it for a driveway, we could work with them to leave, if they benefit from leaving some of that asphalt in place, we could work with them to not remove that.
Okay, I would be in favor of discontinuance.
So thinking ahead, Joe, to what right now, there's no use for continuing that road through because of the railroad tracks, but long term, we've talked about moving the railroad tracks out of town. Would you ever see us continuing that road to intersect with the expressway? Or is that?
I think with a rail relocation, I think because of the positioning of the yard, the railroad yard, when they're building trains and switching out cars, they often, and I think that's usually when we end up seeing some of the biggest delays at the crossings, is when they're building them, they'll push the cars to the south, and they'll push them across High Street and down in front of Fremont Street, Sometimes I think they end up maybe across West Grand, but I don't think that's as often as, crossing High Street with, when they're getting into the yard and pulling out of the yard and building trains. But, so I would find it hard to believe that the railroad would completely remove that section of rail. But, if the railroad wasn't there, even still, I don't see Fremont connecting up to the expressway, given the connecting highway status and four-lane nature of that road.
Okay.
Anyone else? All right, I'll make a motion to move forward with discontinuance of Harrison Street from 7th Avenue to 9th Avenue.
I'd second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to vote. All in favor, respond with aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Okay, moving on to item 6. Review and consider effects to public works services with a 5-day work week to 4-day work week. Go
Thank
ahead,
you.
Paul.
So this is just discussion. Our work group for multiple years has had discussions about going to 4 10-hour days instead of 5 8s. And just wanted to get the input of this committee to see, if you guys have any desires or comments on this. Obviously, we are a service-oriented organization, and currently, some of the things that are going to be affected by this is the possibility of the compost site being closed on Friday, or the city pit being closed on a Friday, and or even our city facility, our garage, is being closed. So granted, our garage typically provides service to other city entities, and we'll work with those entities to see, what their desires are. But was, like I said, just looking for feedback from you guys and the council to see if you have an opinion or comments on that. One of the things is that looking at it is splitting the work group and working Monday through Thursday and Tuesday through Friday. So I will tell you that I am not in favor of that, because the amount of people that we have that are not working 10s right now is not very, I think we're down to probably 16 to 20 staff. So then that would give us 10 people on Monday to work with and 10 people on Friday to work with. So in talking with other public works departments that have tried that, it makes it difficult to get a lot done on a day, being that you only have that many staff, and then all of a sudden, somebody's on vacation or whatever, so then there's even less. So no decisions have been made at all. Again, just looking to see if you have any opinion on it is all. So.
Thank you, Paul. You said this was brought up in previous years by staff. How was it brought up? Is it something?
It's just discussions that we've had. Like I said, our construction crew works 4 10s. Our garbage guys work 4 10s. The sign shop works 4 10s, and so there is kind of a portion of our work group that is alienated from it. And it's things that we've worked through, but we've always said that it's kind of everybody's got to be on board with it. And we have some staff members that in the past have had responsibilities to their families, and it hasn't worked for everybody. And so not sure that it's going to work yet, but we're just working through it. But don't want to come up with a great plan and then all of a sudden, no, that's not acceptable to do that. So just trying to get all the information so that we can work through solutions as a group and go from there. Also, I guess it'd be good to say that we would probably follow the counties do this a lot, and we would probably follow the county and a lot of times it's Memorial Day to Labor Day. It's not, you know, all season long. It's just a portion of the year.
Well, I understand the appeal of 410s. I know it's something that, you know, a lot of places, a lot of companies are moving towards. But at the end of the day, you know, we have to have a functioning city that, you know, accommodates to our residents as well. So you have listed on here, so you said the city garage is something that you could probably work around. I assume the stock room as well. So it comes down to the city pit and the west side compost site being closed on Friday. How many folks would you need to staff those two?
Realistically, it's probably one or two staff members.
Per.
Per the pit and the compost site are really managed and operated on a daily basis by one person. There's one staff member that goes out there and opens up the gate and closes the gate at the end of the day, but the person that's out there pushing up the compost, and it wouldn't even be a full day of work. It could just be periods of a day or whatever, you know. Kind of one solution to that would be, you know, 4 9s and a 4 type thing. You know, like I say, just want to have all the information of what expectations of the council is so that we can problem solve or meet those expectations.
Well, I mean, to me, just by what you just said, I think it sounds like it could be worked out in a way that, you know, you might have a few folks that would have to change their schedule, like you said, you know, splitting staff. I know you don't want to do that, but if it's only a few people, you know, maybe it's something we could do. I would be open to, you know, if you wanted to get, you wanted to go to 410s, I guess I would tell you that as long as we can keep, you know, the pit and the west side compost moving forward, I would accept a 410 schedule from Memorial to Labor Day. Anyone else?
Have at it.
Thank you. Agree with a lot of what Ryan said. The last sentence in your referral is, or would the expectations be to keep services as is? And I think the expectations would be to keep services as is. So everything that's available now to residents would be available with the change of shift. As a government, I think the services that they pay for should be available. I'm not even the biggest fan of closing down City Hall at noon. I think residents just expect that Monday through Friday they can get the service they need from their city government that they pay taxes to. And the other thing about the compost and the pit is taking that one day away if that were to potentially happen. There's only so many days in summer, so I'd hate to see that go away as well. So if services could stay as is, I think, you know, it's up to you and the crew, whatever you guys would want to do, but that would be the minimum for me to vote on something like this.
I think it also depends on the service too. So if you have nobody who comes to the city garage for assistance on Fridays, and it's just 2 people waiting for people to come in, I think that's something that we could say probably doesn't need to be there on Fridays. I do prefer having a shifted 410s where you have some people on Friday, some people off Monday, and so on. From the serving our community standpoint, from an HR perspective, your employees are more productive on 10-hour days versus 8-hour days, or even doing 4 9s and a 4. So I would prefer that you try to figure out how we can do the 10-hour days, just because I think, well, we would have a little bit less staff available to provide services Monday and Friday. We would be getting more productive service Tuesday through Thursday.
Paul, would there be any potential for this disrupting like street construction work? Say if it is a 410 schedule, and you got a monsoon on a Wednesday. I mean, are you guys working in that type of weather on the streets? Or,
We currently are. Monsoon, you go through and do some other stuff, right? I mean, there's always cleanup, there's always equipment checks, there's always, things that don't get done because you're working production stuff, so, yeah, we typically are working that. There is, back to the union days, there was language in there that if you send them home, you pay them for 2 hours and then they come in on another day or whatever. That could be a discussion point as well, so that you shut it down and then you end up working on a Friday or whatever. So,
yeah, probably a rare occurrence, but I
Right.
mean, I would not want to see us losing days because we switched to the 410.
yeah, so the construction crew is already on 410s and they've
Yep.
been on 410s for like 4 years. But like I said, when conditions, working on the east side versus west side, here in sand versus clay, that activity traditionally can continue. We'll see this year, right? Because the majority of our projects are on the west side, so we don't want to make mud, so.
Yep. Anyone else? Okay, well, did you get what you needed there?
Yeah, so simply my notes is to continue to provide the services that we do 5 days a week, and try to work within that. Nobody has issues with working the 410s, but just try to continue to maintain the services, or the expectation is to continue to maintain the services that we currently are.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item 7, review and consider award of the low qualified bidder for the 1 Mile Creek Dam repair. Go ahead, Joe.
We opened bids for this project on March 25th at 1 PM, and we had two bidders, Yankee General Contractors and Radke Contractors. Their bid pricing was basically within $10,000 of each other. The Yankee had the low bid of $199,945. As compared to our budget was comprised of two different aspects of the project. One was the dredging activity, which the city crews accomplished, right around $139,000 was allotted for that, leaving $210,000 for the lower dam repair contract. And so Yankee General Contractors is within the budget amount for that project, and so we would recommend award of this contract to Yankee General Contractors in the amount of $199,945.
Thank you, Joe. One question, have we worked with Yankee before within the city?
We have, yes.
Okay. Anyone else?
I would make that motion to accept Yankees' bid of $199,945.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to vote. All in favor, respond with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Item 8, review and consider award of the low qualified bidder for the 2025 asphalt paving contract. Go ahead, Joe.
So on Monday of this week, we opened bids for this contract, and we had one sole bidder, which isn't uncommon, American Asphalt, in the amount of $552,414. We structured the contract with a base bid amount for all of our primary projects, and then we had an additive alternate item for the Dixon parking lot. The Dixon parking lot item came in at $29,624 for the asphalt. And I mentioned the distinction there, so that, considering approval of the awarding the contract, either awarding it with the additive alternate or awarding it without. And so, if the committee wasn't in favor of pursuing the Dixon parking lot at this time. We, want to make the motion to approve the base bid without the additive alternate. But obviously, that parking lot needs to be repaved at some point if we're going to keep it as a parking lot. And I guess in review of all of our contracts, kind of going through, because this is an annual contract, just like the concrete contracts for all of our projects this year. They come from maintenance accounts and Public Works Construction Fund, which is then funded by, the utilities. And so the pot of money, it's coming from a lot of different places. But just our overall review, working with the finance director, we should have, we've got dollars available for the Dixon parking lot through maintenance accounts. And then considering the asphalt and concrete contracts kind of together, looking at our budgets, we do fall a little bit short, about $45,000 short from the what's contracted here based upon current estimates that we have for the projects. The contracts themselves, they contain additional bid items and additional dollars within them insofar as miscellaneous bid items and quantities. And so, if we're, for instance, with asphalt, we also have asphalt removal and miscellaneous saw cutting. Those carry a certain dollar amount within the contract. But considering that we can modify those quantities and aren't paying for all of those bid items, we've kind of worked out that should be able to monitor our primary construction projects for this year as each one is completed to verify where our contract dollars are falling. And so the bids themselves, the unit costs, they're in line with what we'd expect to see, and should be able to manage those contracts such that we fall within budgets, or at least bring them back for further consideration if we need to. But with that, I guess I would recommend to the committee that awarding the asphalt contract to American Asphalt with the inclusion of the Dixon parking lot.
Thank you, Joe. Any questions for Joe on the asphalt contract? Okay, I'll make a motion to approve American Asphalt as the low qualified bidder for the 2025 asphalt contract, including the Dixon lot. Sorry, I don't have the total, is it in the packet?
$552,414.
Please include that in the motion.
That's the base bid amount.
Oh, not with the adder?
So yeah, base bid was $552,414 with the additive alternate Dixon lot at $29,624.
Okay, so including the Dixon lot.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to vote. All in favor respond with aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. All right, item 9, review and consider award of the low qualified bidder for the 2025 concrete contract. Joe?
So this was structured the same way, with the Dixon parking lot being an additive item. Considering the unit costs that we got from the low bidder, we would not recommend pursuing the concrete items. Talking with Paul and his guys, I think we can either reduce the concrete items sufficiently that we won't need it, or city forces can remove and replace the smaller quantity of concrete items. But we did have 5 prime contractors that were on the plan holders list. We received 2 bids, one from Patrica's Construction and then the other from Summers Construction. And Summers was the low bid in the amount of $1,115,661.62. And I kind of covered all of the budget and detail items in the prior asphalt contract item. And so we'd recommend award to Summers in the amount of $1,115,661.62 without the additive alternate.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Any questions by committee?
I don't have the bid to compare, but the additive, so we had an additive on both of them for the Dixon Street parking lot. Since we motioned to have American Asphalt do that, would the alternative have been to have Summers do the same work? And was Summers less for the Dixon Street parking lot?
So they would have, if, so each contract would be for different activities. So if we awarded the concrete portion for the Dixon lot, yeah, Summers would be doing an additional about $16,000 worth of concrete work at a premium for the little bit of curb we were looking at and a little bit of concrete flat work, along with a mobilization charge. And so reconsidering the condition of those items would opt out of that option. But the two contracts and two contractors, they would be doing their own portions of the work.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I guess I would make a motion to accept the bid by Summers Concrete for whatever the dollar amount was, 1,115,000 and whatever odd dollars.
Without the adder.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay, I'll second that. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to vote. All in favor, respond with aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries. All right, moving on to item number 10, review the municipal separate storm sewer system, MS4 annual report.
So just real briefly, this is something that we bring to the committee every year as part of the city's permit for stormwater discharge. We're required to submit this annual report. Covers a variety of things like public education and outreach, involvement and participation. We monitor illicit discharges. We do testing of our outfalls every year, construction site and post-construction, stormwater inspections, as well as pollution prevention and keeping our storm sewer system maps up to date. The actual report is included in the packet. We will post it on the city's website, and the report's been submitted already at the end of March, but like to bring it in and at least provide an opportunity and acknowledgement of the submission, and then, of course, answer any questions that anybody may have.
Thank you, Joe. Questions or comments from committee?
A curiosity question. What happens if we don't submit this report?
That's a good question. I think certainly any grant opportunities and penalties, I think they have the ability to level penalties against the city, fines, essentially. I'm not sure. I know the way that it's handled with like private development, the state can, the DNR can send it to the Department of Justice and handled criminally. I'm not sure if that would be the same for a city entity, but yeah, they take it seriously.
Well, thank you for submitting this on time and making sure we're in compliance, Joe.
All right, well, you want a motion to approve this report, or are we good?
If you wouldn't mind.
Sure. I'll make a motion to approve the municipal separate storm sewer System Annual Report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to vote. All in favor respond with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Ayes have it. All right, item 11, review the referral list. I think item 6 could probably be scratched. And item 8 as well.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay. Set the next meeting date. What do we have? Oh, that's a good point, Paul. Why don't we forgo that agenda item and let the next Public Works Committee choose their next meeting date? So that takes us to 13, which is adjournment. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks, everyone. Have a great evening.